This is More Money with economist Steve Moore. Now, Steve Moore.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show on WBC Talk Radio. I hope everyone is having a wonderful weekend on this wonderful Saturday afternoon. My first guest this afternoon is a good friend and a colleague, Sabo, who is one of the chief officers of a group that I absolutely love. It's called Net Choice. And Net Choice basically stands for liberty and making sure that we have we are number one in the technology industries that matter, whether it's internet, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it is the social networks. We need to be number one. And Net Choice is in business to make sure that our supremacy in high tech is preserved. And Carl, is that working? Are we number one?
You know, number one is as fleeting as tomorrow. And that's kind of what we're seeing across the board. I mean, if you just look at the Olympics, right, you can be in first place and then suddenly somebody just blazes right by you
right.
at the last second.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're looking at right now with respect to our technological leadership across the world. Remember, we are the nation that invented the automobile, the television, the light bulb, the internet. Al Gore. And we are the world leader when it comes to technology. But that is not guaranteed. If you look at the history of the world, everything has ebbs and flows. And unfortunately, right now, we are definitely on a downward trend competitively. And that's because of government intervention, government involvement, and government intrusion.
So you and I have worked together on these issues over the last 5 years or so, and love working with the folks at Net Choice. And I want to just give you my quick take on this and then get your reaction to it. We are number one because we have the most innovative companies and we have the most innovative workers. And we have a lot of great, smart immigrants who come to the country and have made Silicon Valley and our technology corridors so predominant. But on the other hand, everybody in Washington now wants to regulate them. And even some of my friends, Carl, on the right, who are more normally kind of laissez-faire, free market, they want to regulate these companies, and they want to regulate Google, and they want to regulate Apple, and they want to regulate Facebook. And by the way, I'll bet a lot of our audience doesn't like Facebook, for example, because they do discriminate against conservatives. But on the other hand, they provide amazing products for the American people. They make a lot of money for the American people. They make a lot of money for our government in terms of the taxes they pay. And so I get frustrated that though some of our friends on the right say, oh, we have to regulate the tech companies. And what do you say to them?
You know, regulation is great until the other person's in power. And let's be clear. We have watched under the current Biden administration the, quote, regulation of tech in favor of Democrats. Let's remember, it was not too long ago that during COVID, and this came out in the Twitter files, there were lawsuits by Robert Kennedy and many others that raised the problem of government telling social media to remove content such as crazy ideas like COVID came from a lab, or crazy ideas that maybe masks aren't as effective as Dr. Fauci says they are, or vaccines guarantee that you will never, ever, ever get COVID. So what we saw was the government putting its finger on the scales in favor of themselves. So that's and
also oftentimes getting it wrong, right? I mean, a lot of what they said was misinformation was right, and
that's exactly it. And in fact, you actually heard the Washington press corps just recently asking the Biden administration if they were going to try and block or censor President Trump when he was going on X to talk with Elon Musk, because that was a, quote, threat to democracy or a threat to freedom and stuff like that. And so that's the thing. As frustrated as I, as a Republican, as I, as a conservative, may get with social media and the decisions they make, I would much rather be in a position where I can vote with my feet, as we've seen with something as simple as Bud Light, than having the government come in and dictate who can say what and what websites and apps we can visit and download.
I could not agree more. I think you're exactly right. I mean, I'll take my chances with a private company rather than having the government come in and tell us what we can say. I mean, I do believe that one of our most cherished rights is the right to free speech, and that right has really been under assault. In fact, mostly from the left lately. It used to be remember the left used to be the champions of the First Amendment, but now they want to tell you what you can and can't say. They want to tell you what you can and can't be exposed to in terms of what you listen to or you watch. And so you all did. The reason I wanted to have you on the More Money Show is because you all at Netflix won a landmark case in the Supreme Court, and I'd love for you to tell us about that.
Yeah, thanks for kind of teeing that up. So, my company, NetChoice, and I brought a suit against the states of Florida and Texas. Now, don't get me wrong, I love those states. I went to school in Texas. I love Florida, great bastions of freedom. But they had passed laws that would force websites to host content that they don't want to host. Stuff like pro-Nazi propaganda, stuff like encouraging and endorsing dogfighting. A lot of awful content.
By the way, hold on. Let me just hold on. Yeah. Let me just interrupt you for that. I don't care what it is. If you own a platform, like I have this radio show, Carl, I can decide what I want on the air and what I don't want on the air. I can decide who I want my guests to be. It would be like the government saying, hey, Steve Moore, you have to have Kamala Harris on and you have to have this person on. I mean, come on. This is private. It's privately owned. And what are they going to do? They're going to like tell you who you have to associate with and who you're going to have on. And is the New York Times now going to have conservative opinion on their editorial page?
Well, yeah. When they try that, editors get fired. And
right.
I mean, but that's exactly right. The case on which so this was already decided decades, if not hundreds of years ago, by the U.S. Supreme Court time and time again. They had actually said in a case in Florida back in the 80s that the Miami Herald was not required to publish an op-ed if they didn't want to publish it. Right. And it's the exact same thing. So what the court said, and this was on July 1st, so we were kind of sandwiched between two also big decisions, Corner Post and Trump immunity. But the decision for ours just made crystal clear, and not shockingly, that the First Amendment applies to the internet, and the First Amendment applies to social media platforms and websites to decide what content they want to host and what type of people they will allow on their site. Just like the Lions Club or the American Legion can decide who gets to use their town halls.
Right. And so this is a big victory for freedom of speech. So congratulations on that. And so who was this Google or who was the plaintiff in this case?
So the plaintiff was NetChoice and CCIA. So we're trade associations. And so we have standing to defend. And ultimately we're up there defending not just, our members do include Google and Facebook, but also Etsy. Sure. One of the things in the Florida law would require Etsy to sell sweaters with swastikas. Now, maybe Etsy wants to do that.
That's ridiculous.
Probably Etsy sellers don't want to be associated with that content. Yeah. And at the end of the day, this is great for every single American because what it means is Truth Social doesn't have to host Kamala Harris. What it means is X can create community notes. What it means is that the power resides with people to decide where and what they want to go, see, and use, just like we always had. Yes. And ironically, as you pointed out, the left has gone somewhat apoplectic on this to the point where a former White House National Economic Advisor wrote an op-ed in the New York Times, Tim Wu, entitled Free Speech, the First Amendment has gone too far.
I remember that op-ed and my jaw dropped when I read it. I mean, it is so outrageous. They'd say we have to restrain free speech, but folks, this is our most fundamental right. There's a reason it's number one in the Bill of Rights because it is fundamental to our freedoms. And I don't want, Carl, anybody on the left or the right interfering with my freedom of speech. Now, one last thing, and we've only got a couple minutes to go. By the way, I'm talking to Carl Sabo, who is at Net Choice, which does an amazing job at protecting our liberties and protecting the supremacy of our great technology companies that dominate the world. So they keep calling these companies monopolies, like Google, Apple, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. Even you see sometimes even the retail Amazon is a monopoly, and yet you look at these industries and like let's take the example of search engine. Now Google's the biggest, but there must be 24 search engines you can go to if you don't like Google, right?
Absolutely. So this is. I mean, I would just ask that some of these intelligentsia take a Latin class. You can't have monopolies. You can't have mono meaning one and plural. It doesn't work.
Right.
It is
yes.
the most incongruous statement. So what we're actually seeing is this is not about going after, quote, anti-competitive behavior, because there is legitimate anti-competitive behavior out there in many industries that are going unaddressed, like Ticketmaster. But when it comes to things like search, are you kidding me? Bing is owned by Microsoft, the largest company on the planet. Then you have DuckDuckGo. If I'm going to look for restaurants, I'll go to Yelp or OpenTable. So this is not about protecting against harm to consumers. This is about avenging a personal vendetta against success. And that's the fundamental problem across the political spectrum. In America, anyone can make it so long as they don't make too much. That's the new mantra of our government.
And Carl, just to emphasize this point, because we're coming to an end here, but this has been a great conversation. Because look, we have mostly a pro-business conservative audience on this station. And a lot of them probably, I don't like Facebook. I don't like Google. And that's fine. I don't like some of the things they do either. But you know what? Turn it off if you don't like it. If you don't like it, it's like, you said with Bud Light. If you don't like Bud Light, look out what a change they can make. So you can make an impact with your own decisions. But folks, you don't want the government making these decisions for you because Carl, as a libertarian, I fear big government more than I do Google or Facebook or these other tech companies.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Just remember, the free market is the greatest decider of what people want, and money will follow accordingly.
Well, you need to tell Kamala Harris that because she wants to put price controls on everything. She doesn't understand the free price system. We're gonna have to get you in front of her and explain why that doesn't work. Well, Carl, thank you. Keep up the great work. Congratulations on the great victory for freedom of speech and First Amendment rights, and keep at it. Carl Sabo, of course, is at Net Choice, folks, a great organization. How do people? What's the website?
Yep, netchoice.org, netchoice.org. You can also follow us on X at NetChoice, and you can follow me at Carl Szabo, CarlSza, B as in boy, O as in October.
Okay, thank you so much, Carl. Great. Have a great weekend, folks. This is the More Money Show on WABC. We'll be right back.